What is up, YouTube? It is your boy Deluxe again. We're not going to waste any time right now, so we're just going to get right into this. This is going to be an undercut bald fade with a beard lineup. This is more of a mid-drop fade in the back. And of course, my clients does have braids on the top. First things first, we're going to start our first guideline. Like I said before, we are going to drop this in the back just because his braids and hair on top does drop a little bit. I mean, we want to make sure we keep the fade and everything all nice and flowing with the hair. We want to make sure we keep as much darkness level at the top, near the top of the braids, to kind of make that nice little transition from the bald, so it's just not all stubble hair. Next, then I go and line up the sides, kind of just do a quick outline. Then I go ahead and take my zero guard, and I just go about up 3/4 of an inch, make my first guideline all the way around the head. That is with a zero guard close on my Andis Fade Masters. Next, all I'm going to do is just take down all the bulk hair. These are my wall heroes. I do use my wall heroes to create my first guideline as well. These are not modified or zero gap. These are just right out of the box when I first got them. I don't modify them for two reasons. One being that they just hit right out of the box, so there's really no need to. Two, I really only use these clippers just for bulk hair and taking down hair and creating that first bald guideline. I don't really create bald guidelines with anything else except those trimmers, just due to the fact they don't get the hair, like they don't make a real hard indent line. They take the bulk hair down really well. They don't create like such a close line that's hard to get out. Next, I'm just gonna take it down my Andis shavers. After that, I'm going to use my wall heroes again and kind of go use a little technique, because I left a little sliver, a little like centimeter of stubble before my first guideline. That's just going to be used to kind of blend everything out at the bottom. So I try to get that hair real short as possible, using the reverse side of the wall heroes, take it down as close as possible and make sure all that hair is evened out so everything's all nice and uniform. Next, I'm going to take my Andis Fade Masters and start by go very small stroke up with them closed. This is just to kind of start my transition from the bald to where the clipper starts at. Usually what I like to do with my Andis Fade Masters is I like to go from baldness all the way to a zero guard open. I always like to fade up. So what you're going to be seeing next is just transitions of going from closed clipper halfway to open, and then making sure cleaning up any lines that are left behind from that, working my way upwards. So Andis Fade Masters going close, working my way up, fading my way up, making sure the hair that I'm taking down is all evened out. I go back through it after I get done with that first little notch, and I go ahead and bald out that little line, that little sliver line that was left behind that my trimmers could not get out. Make sure the bald to the stubble is nice and smooth. After that, I'm just gonna simply go halfway open, go all the way around the side of the head. After that, I'm just gonna repeat the same steps I did on the right side of the head on the left side. As you can kind of see right now, my clippers actually did stick a little pimple on the back of my client's head. Anytime that you have any blood or any pimple popped or anything like that on the head that you're cutting, you want to make sure you stop and take any procedure. This is just a simple, I don't even know, I honestly don't even remember what these are called, but I know it seals up the wound and it stops the bleeding from happening, and it keeps it all nice and sanitized. So that way, any hair or dirt that comes off my client's head or my clippers is not going to infect or worsen that little opening to the skin, and I can continue working around the head with no worries of getting blood on my clippers or getting dirt and possibly infection on that part of his head. And it dries up fairly quickly. You might see a little white spot after that throughout the cut. After all this, I'm gonna take my zero guard open and go up another 3/4. That'll be my next guideline I'm gonna knock out. Then I take my last video I called these the Pro Foils, but these are actually the Andis Pro Alloys. I actually do kind of like these clippers just for the strength that they give me. I don't really like them for fading, like my main fading clipper, but the Andis Fade Masters, they always leave like a little line going from no guard open to zero guard closed. So this is just a clipper that I open up, and I like to use that to kind of take out the extra little line because they don't get as close as the Fade Masters. After I do this, I'm just gonna go ahead back of my zero guard and work my way going fading up and kind of fade out that line going from closed halfway to open, and then any lines or dark spots that I do see, usually I go back over and make sure that those are faded out before I continue on with the fade. Now you can see that I'm trying to leave as much hair as possible up top. I'm not trying to push the fade up too high. I'm actually only going to go up to, I believe, a 2 guard close or a 1 guard open at the very top, because that's gonna leave that nice little dark haze while maintaining a good clean fade. What I'm gonna do after that is just take my 1 guard open and just go all the way up and work my way all the way up, trying not to catch the braids or any of the longer hairs and cut those down. I do like to use my comb at times to hold back the hair to make sure that nothing kind of gets in the way of my guard to catch the hair and pull it, so that to ensure that my client keeps as much long hair on top as possible. With the braids, it kind of keeps everything out of the way, but if your client doesn't have braids or his hair just kind of free flowing, or you're just using clips or something to hold that up, it might get a little difficult. I just like to use my whatever comb I'm using to kind of separate it and block any long hair out, and kind of work my way under that. So I said before, once I get to my 1 guard and anything above that, I will only fade downwards. The reason being is that when I'm fading downward, what I mean by fading down is going from open, making my 3/4 guideline indent first, and then go from open guard and then working my way down to half to close, and then if anything else, just kind of work my way back through that area to make sure everything's all nice and smoothed out. Reason being is that, you know, you want to make sure that that first little bald to zero transition is nice and tight as possible. I think that makes the fade really pop. Everything else, everything longer than that, even when you get into like a 1, it's more, the hair gets darker. You want more of it. I like a more smoother transition. There's really no, I never personally like looked at somebody's fade or was like, man, I'm trying to get this 3 guard to 4 guard blend super tight and fresh and blended out and nice and sharp. I just think it looks cleaner when it's smooth. It goes from sharp to smooth blend, and then you can work with shapes of hair a lot better that way. To kind of get the longer hairs that I don't want to get up in there with a clipper, because a 2 guard going up in there will catch hairs because the teeth are longer on the 2 guard. I like to go shear over comb, and this gives me a lot more accuracy on what hairs I am cutting and what I can cut and not cut. This is just a good way to kind of get out all those little bulk hairs and really have control over what you are cutting off, how much I'm cutting off. And honestly, sometimes it does make the fade a little bit more smoother too. Going to bigger guards, just going over with a shear over comb technique. I don't know why. You just have a little bit more control over what you're cutting. You have a little bit more control of how much you're going to be cutting off with the comb. You kind of decipher it for yourself, what's getting fed through the comb and everything like that. After that, we're going to move on to the beard. This technique that I'm kind of doing is actually what I learned from Chuka, sitting next to him and seeing this. When I always took down beards, I always went against the grain. And it was kind of hard to kind of get that nice, dark, laid down look when you go against the grain, because everything kind of gets very stubbly. So I like to go with the grain of the beard while combing it down, and I learned that the beard lays down a lot better. You're taking out like any stray hairs. My client did ask, he just wanted all the stray hairs taken off. Instead of like trying to figure out what trimmer to go with, possibly going too short on his beard, I just like to go over it as if you were going to go over waves or something, or just any hair with the grain, and kind of just knock off those hairs that are sticking out, and it doesn't really take off too much bulk. After that, I'm just going to begin with the tapering on the sideburn. I actually work my way first, close the open guard again, going down, of course, because you can't fade up, and then I take my 1 guard open and I go probably about at the very bottom of the ear, and then I work my way back up from half open, 1 guard, halfway close, open, 0 guard, halfway close, and then clean it up with my Andis Pro Alloys, anything that's not blended out. Now I'm just going to take my Wall Heroes, kind of go throughout the outline behind the jawline, under jawline. He likes to keep it like a little bit below jawline. I like to comb out a lot of the hair like down below the jawline, because right down here, you might think the line is sharp, but if you comb that stuff out, there are going to be hairs that are popping out. After that, I'm just going to move my way to the mustache. Again, I go with the grain on the mustache to make sure it keeps it all nice and dark. I don't go too short, and it kind of just gets all those stray hairs and makes everything lay down nice and easily. After that, I'm going to take my trimmers and I work my way from the outside of the top lip to the inside, just to make sure I don't push anything back or I don't take that corner of the mustache out. Then I like to use my little Andis wireless trimmers, kind of just go over the top. It just gives me more mobility working around the nose area. And then after that, I also take them and get my kind of guideline for the beard arch. These are great because I can see what I'm doing. There's no cord that's really pulling the clippers downward, and I just feel very free using them. After that, just repeat the same steps that we just did on the left side of the beard on the right side. After you get done with that, moving on to the lineup. Of course, I always use spritz on every one of my lineups after I took down the front little hairs. I believe I took it down with a 1 guard open, going with the grain as well on this to make sure everything kind of stays dark. Now with my client here, he kind of has a little slanted hairline, but we don't want to push it back too much. We just want to make sure it lines up nice and evenly. I always take it one side at a time, working from my middle outwards to the outward line and going back over it multiple times. Make sure everything's nice and crisp. Always combing out and make sure any baby hairs or any little stray hairs left behind or curled up are getting cut down and lined up, so that way when he goes home, takes a shower, goes to bed, or rubs his forehead, that nothing's gonna pop out or nothing's gonna come out of line or anything like that. With the braids, it is probably better for people to go ahead and get cut up after they get braided, just due to the fact that we can get rid of all the stray hairs. If you get cut up before, we don't really know what's going to be a stray hair and what the braider or person braiding is going to use for the braids and what they're going to pick up and kind of use in the little braids. So if you get braided before and then come in and get your hair cut, lined up, we can take care of any stray hairs that they did leave behind, and we'll make sure that you're getting looking super sharp. I'm just going over the hairline a couple times, a couple different trimmers. I have a little bit more mobility with the Wall Heroes, making sure that I don't push back that line, keep it as natural as possible, but also keeping in mind that he does have a little slant going down to the right side, so trying to ease that line up a little bit to make sure everything's all nice and straight by the end of the cut. The next thing I'm going to be doing is just apply my hair fibers. Just take the Enhance card. I think I believe I use dark brown on my client. I go ahead and start from the middle, work my way to the corners, get the corners and get the little arch a little bit, just to make sure he has a little pop in it. Believe he told me that he had a little photo shoot, so he wanted to be looking extra popping with the hair fibers. And right now what I'm doing is I'm applying hair fibers first with any of the Enhanced spritz, just because I don't want to put too much spritz on his hairline at the moment. After I get done applying the hair fibers, I go ahead with my trimmers. These are actually my Pro Mates. My Pro Mates with a Andis T-outliner blade on them. Those are real hitters right there. And just go ahead and go back over that line. Make sure all the hair fibers are nice and crisp. The hairline's nice and crisp again. Anything that you did miss, hit that arch. Make sure everything's all nice and crispy. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and take my straight razor, go ahead and start straight razoring him up. Now for this on the beard, he did push down his beard line up a little bit, so when you get to the corners of the mouth, it does get a little bit lighter. So I'm trying to keep his beard as natural as possible. And if you could tell, like, the beard doesn't look, I try not to get the beard super crispy before I use a straight razor. I really use the straight razor to get the more details. I kind of just do like a rough draft outline with my trimmers, because I know like the trimmers aren't gonna get it as crispy as I would like to with the straight razor. Kind of just take down the hairs, and I also take down the cheeks with the with my Andis shavers to make sure everything's all nice and smooth when I am shaving, because I want to make sure my client has the most comfort. First I apply clear shaving gel, and I just take my towel, kind of dab off any excess shaving gel to make sure that it doesn't get clogged up on his line, and I can still have a nice clear sight of what I am cutting and what I shouldn't be cutting. That first go around through the beard is also just kind of take is like a rough draft, almost kind of just get a nice little outline. You want to go over that line with a straight razor. Like, I like to go through it like at least 2 or 3 times to really make sure you get all the little hairs, just to make sure that line is super crisp, and you can get the best arch. And you want to, like, every little hair matters on a beard. One little hair can kind of throw off the arch of the look, so you want to make sure you go back over it, kind of always inspecting, making sure each side kind of has the same flow and same arch flow. Nobody has the same hair growth on each side of their beard, or even each side of their head for that matter of fact. So you always want to be checking to make sure which side might be a little bit lighter in areas, which side is a little lower on the cheeks, so you can match up the one side. I always like doing the lower side first, if I can tell whatever side's the lower side. That way I can kind of match up the higher side and go down. I hate when I go from the higher side first and I bar it up, right, and then I go ahead and go to the lower side and it just doesn't match up at all. I kind of have to go back over that higher side and kind of push it down a little bit to where I didn't really want to. So I always go with the lower side first and match up the higher side to the lower side. Like I said before, he did push down his lineup a little bit when he was taking care of his beard on his own. So I'm just applying little hair fibers as well, so you can make sure his selfies come out picture perfect. Kind of just go through it after I apply the hair fibers. I want to make sure all that shaving gel is out of there, because that will clump up everything, kind of make it look a little more unnatural. So I make sure I comb out to get out any of the shaving gel. After that, I kind of go through with the trimmers, kind of do a rough outline, and then make sure everything's all nice and sharp with the straight razor. After that, I just clean him up, make sure everything's all nice and taken down on the neckline. Kind of make sure everything's all nice and smooth back there and under the neck as well. Make sure everything is all nice and taken down, shaven down all the way as clean as possible, so it can make his beard pop out as much as possible. Make sure you always check with your clients and make sure they're okay with using either a straight razor or any electric shavers, because some clients and some people do have sensitive skin and they do bump up or get skin irritation. I know for myself, I'd never let anybody else besides me use any shavers on my neck because my neck is so sensitive. Make sure you sanitize your client. You make sure you apply any aftershave, any sheen. I did use a little oil sheen on him that I got from Bronner Brothers. Smells really good. Smells like cotton candy after that. And that is how you do a little undercut bald fade with braids. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Hope it was a little informational. Hope you guys learned something. Please like this video, comment on anything you like, did not like, thought I could do better, things that you want to see in the near future of hair tutorials. Let me know. Other than that, be on the lookout for weekly videos. Appreciate you guys watching from the bottom of my heart. It really humbles me to see my following grow. Thank you, and make sure you stay tuned.